Carlina Rivera, pleasure to have you on stage.
Thank you. All right. Hi. It's my family. My friends are here. It's my first TED Talk. Where you live? Where? 4th and C. That's a great block. Everybody should come to District 2. Fantastic, fantastic district. It's Lower East Side, where I was born and raised. Okay. East Village, Gramercy, Kips Bay, Murray Hill. All right, so I don't want to take the whole 10 minutes. That's a little crazy, but I want to just say good evening to everyone. Thank you for having me. I can't thank you enough for gathering here today and having a really, really important conversation. You're probably asking, why am I here? You've heard that this is going to be an interagency, multi-level, holistic, comprehensive collaboration if we're really going to get this right. So why is, I guess, a councilwoman here? I was actually on my community board, and those are pretty serious conversations that happen at a very local level. And those are 50 volunteers across 54 community boards in the city. And I spent a lot of time having conversations, and I will tell you that I've seen some heartbreaking things happen at a community board. Very joyous, very informative things, but I've also seen like restaurants turned down, which I thought would have brought a real community benefit. And I've also saw basically like institutional racism at play. I'm just gonna keep it very, very honest. So your council member is also in charge of, not in charge of, but what we do is we recommend people to assign to these boards. So just know that we are involved in kind of all these intricacies. And I'm a New Yorker, right? I told you, LES, born and raised, local Dutch master since 1999. So I just want to thank Revelry, all the incredible panelists. We're going to have a little chat. We value equity, social justice, and community reinvestment at the core of this new economy. And what your council member does, I'm going to explain it just in 4 ways. So there is the budget, we passed the budget, and this is not just talking about social equity, it can't just be a policy. We actually have to match that with funds. We also provide constituent services. So you might be a constituent, you have a problem, you tell your council member, but our small businesses are also our constituents. So I will help with that certificate of occupancy problem, that inspection question. So we do have to know a lot about many, many things, and we certainly do try our best. So I know sometimes politicians, we got a hard rap, but we're trying. And then the other thing that we do is pass legislation. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what went down at the state level, but also one of the things that the council does is provide oversight and investigation on these agencies. And so I'll give you one small story in that I was the chair of the Committee on Hospitals. We actually did a hearing in 2019 on the disproportionate drug testing on Black and brown mothers in our hospital system. That was important to me, so I held a hearing on it. And we actually got that policy changed in health and hospitals. So you can make change through hearings if you really want to. So now that we're all on board with marijuana legalization, it's these communities that will lead the effort. We refuse to be an afterthought. I can see that now in the energy in this room. And so the movement to legalize marijuana, as we know, is also rooted in the racist history of the war on drugs. And so while marijuana consumption and sales occur at similar rates across racial and ethnic groups, Black and brown people, as you know, are arrested for possessing marijuana at vastly disproportionate rates. And I know many of you know this info, but I'm going to tell you the percentages since I don't have fancy slides. All right? New Yorkers of color, the vast majority Black and Latino, were hit with 94% of pot-related arrests and summonses in 2020. This wasn't 10 years ago. This was in 2020. This is according to an analysis of NYPD data by the Legal Aid Society. In March 2021, New York enacted one of the most ambitious marijuana legalization programs in the country. And here's a little bit about it, right? This wouldn't have happened without grassroots organizing and advocacy across New York State. New York's legalization centers racial and economic justice by addressing devastating impacts of marijuana prohibition in the fields of immigration, housing, employment, child welfare, and other consequences of criminalization. Establishing an equitable and diverse industry, including having a social equity licensing program supporting directly impacted people, farmers, and small businesses, plus an incubator program to provide low and zero interest loans, technical assistance, and legal counsel, and using revenue from marijuana legalization for restitution to communities that have been most impacted by criminalization. That's what's in the program. And we heard a little bit about kind of the achievements that we made with like hemp farmers and giving those licenses. I will tell you, you go to those big farms upstate, some of them are literally owned by a Rockefeller. You know, so that's the thing that we also have to watch out for, is that our smaller businesses really get the support that they need. And if you've ever been to California, and I go to different states to check out their program, you know, for research. So, you know, again, whether it's Massachusetts or California, you walk into one of those MedMen, I love me a MedMen, but that's the Apple store for weed, right? And that takes a lot of capital to get something like that up and running. And so that's what we have to do, is match the capital funding to the business entrepreneurs and do it in an equitable way. All right. So particularly now, as we are grappling with how to recover from the economic crisis caused by the pandemic and the worst levels of unemployment in a century. And you know where these high levels are, right? They're in the Bronx, they're in Brooklyn. We need to be creating more access points for employment, and yet the state still hasn't issued any licenses to the people and companies who will supply, ship, and sell legal cannabis to customers. So we have a lot of steps to go. I want to do everything in my power to ensure that potential licensees are aware of the importance of civil and community relationships needed in our city, which includes, as you heard, the FDNY, which was actually a really great presentation. Those are those check boxes. Be nice to your civil and public servants. It goes a long way to be kind. And I also say, I'm surprised you didn't say don't smoke in bed, right? Don't light too many candles. Like I thought that they usually talk about that. The NYPD, community boards, thank you to Mar. That was an excellent presentation. As I said, I was a community board member. It's a lot of work. And of course, the city council. So as with other multi-agency responses, communication is always key. We're not always going to get everything right. And so I want us to have open lines of communication. I'm one of 51 council members. So please, you have to utilize us as a resource, but you also have to hold us accountable. That's 100% clear. So the law requires that 40% of the tax revenue generated by recreational cannabis sales go towards helping communities harmed during the war on drugs era. Okay? And that is by way of a yet-to-be-established New York State Community Reinvestment Grant Fund. So again, we have many steps to go, and we are learning from states like New Jersey, et cetera. About 40% of the remaining money will go to the Community Grants Reinvestment Fund. With qualified community organizations and local government agencies, they can apply for grants to help areas that were disproportionately affected by federal and state policies surrounding marijuana, which also means that an application process can be unnecessarily cumbersome, onerous, and difficult to navigate. So we also have to make sure that we're assisting with that sort of technical assistance for individuals. So in New York City, this likely means that the mayor and potentially the city council will play a role in how that money is spent. Let me repeat, your city council, your mayor will likely have a role to play in how that grant money is spent. So licensed applicants who put forward plans that include community benefits, you heard about that from some really talented people, and ways to help people impacted by the drug wars are to be given additional preference as well. And the time is now to work with interested applicants on how to be good neighbors in the communities they are looking to open their future businesses in. So with that, I'll just end with social equity cannot just be a policy goal. We need to match our values with funding. That's our role as your elected officials, as your servants in government. And I hope that you will just remember that when you are looking for some assistance, looking to get some questions answered, and remember it at the ballot box. Remember who you put in office and how they want to see these communities that I think we all know who have been historically disenfranchised and marginalized. And that's what we need to do, is push forward for that sort of social equity and that investment. So thank you. I'm looking forward to the panel. I'll see you in the LES.